Big things, big things, big things. Have you had big experiences? Have you been really down, emotionally very down, that you had to go to psychiatrist, maybe psychologist? It's very common, yeah. Many people do. And when you are in that part of life, then it's very difficult to see any light. And if you are there at the moment, then for sure you think, oh, another one who's talking about all this heavy stuff. But I'm not going to talk in this video about all the bad things that can happen to us. But I'd like to talk about how you can raise your overall state of being so that you can better deal with whatever is coming around. So you may know that I had a psychosis once, and it's very illustrative because it was triggered, let's say, apparently it was triggered because of overload of cannabis and alcohol, but especially there was also a very huge amount of stress. I didn't know how to deal with my life at that moment, and at a certain point crashed. But before it crashed, I could sense really in my all my being that I felt so much discomfort, and I was so afraid, and I was so suspicious. And I went through the psychosis, and then I was told that you have to take care to have a peaceful life, to have rest in life. But it didn't get into. I didn't want that, and I think many persons who have gone through psychosis, they will say, yeah, but I don't want to be living like a plant. What you get with those medicines, or at least what I could notice, is that it's okay. It helped maybe to get my brain more peaceful, but really life was like, it felt like living as a plant. Nothing mattered anymore. So no good things and no bad things. So just no worry, but no life. And I think many persons who went through a psychosis, they like a bit of this dynamic, and also they like alcohol and drugs, of course. What was the medicines were helping for some peace, but later on I learned how to get more peace in my basic life, and that is something I would like to share with everybody. Yeah, if you imagine you have the stress levels like this high in your basic life, and then you get some emotional shock, like a loss of somebody you truly love, and you can imagine many persons that you love, that they could really have an impact if they disappear from your life. So imagine that such an emotional impact is coming when your stress levels are this high. Then you will peak, and you will go over the area what is still possible for your brain and your body to deal with. Yeah. And of course, if you take alcohol and drugs on top of that, it will be easier, and also easier for your brain probably to just go in a different way. But imagine that the general stress level is this high, and the peak is like this high. On top of that, you will get over where you can see it. And if you see my hand, it goes above the camera even. But if you imagine that your overall stress level is not on this level, but it's here, yeah, on this level. Let's see how to do this with the camera. On this level, and you add this, you see that you are getting to this stress level that is pretty high, but not overloading. So if you manage to reduce your general stress levels in life, you can deal better with the same peaks. Yeah, so that is how I experienced life a bit in the last almost 20 years. I was sensitive to, I had the risk of getting a psychosis. And what I did was, the first thing I did was to not take any drugs, not any cannabis. Yeah, no, and other things I didn't do anyway, but no cannabis. So, because that I was really worried about. And I reduced also the alcohol, because I noticed that that was really also giving me a higher stress level. I could notice that my reaction was different with alcohol than without. Also the next day, even though it was just one beer, the next day I could notice that my general state of being was less comfortable, and that means the stress levels were higher. So I didn't want to stop traveling. I didn't want to stop working all night and have a dynamic rhythm, and I didn't want to I wanted to work out in nature and be in an unpredictable state that I didn't want to sacrifice. But I took more care of the sleeping. So if I noticed that I was some nights that I couldn't hardly sleep, I started to take some pills also to be able to sleep. So in general, I reduced the stress levels, not like the psychiatrist said, like you have to get them there, yeah. So, but I reduced them to maybe this level, no, this level, yeah, which was pretty good. And then I was able to have a traveling life and working outdoor in nature, unpredictable, sometimes not knowing where I would sleep the next week or the next day, in not even in which country. But I could deal with that kind of stress. And of course, now I think there's other things that I feel more comfortable with. But anyway, I could be with that stress. But what happened was at a certain point I got twins in my life, and then what I took a while before I realized what happened was that of course the sleep was changing, the economical responsibility was getting bigger. So in the stress levels because of sleep dynamic, which was really awful, the continuous being present for others was there, and economical stress, and then my stress levels were getting higher again. So at a certain point, I even started to take again medicines a bit because I was just in a bad mood, and I was just in this higher stress area, and I didn't get these peaks of that would go over, but I can imagine that if I would have had those peaks, that then my resistance wasn't that big. So what then I started to do was other things like meditation, alternative therapies, and yeah, and then I was able, without medicines, I was able to just go down to get my basic life level again low. Well, I will not go in all the details. There's much more things that changed, and now my life, the way I'm living my life now, I can deal with that basic life on this level. So I have things happening, very big things sometimes, but they don't get that high. If you are dealing with such emotional stress that you have to go to psychologist, psychiatrist, then yeah, it's this message or this video I'm sending out to you, so you can see that I agree also that it's very important to work on lowering your stress levels, and you can figure out what are the ways for you, because yeah, you can do that with many different ways. Sleep, of course, it can help. You can adapt to a more healthy diet with more water, more green, yeah. But you can also use some superfoods that can just help your body to function in a better way, like the wheatgrass juice I use. Some people like to do sports, yeah? Meditation, yoga, mindfulness. There's many ways that you can use, but if you get the general level in your being lower, then you can better deal with the peaks. You are in a more safe space for yourself. So this was my share for today. Big one, big one. For me it's big to share this, but I think it's helpful, hopefully for you too, that there's many ways how you can reduce this general stress level so you have a better defense. And that's for emotional impacts, but it's also for diseases, of course. Then you can better deal with everything.